Welcome back to the program. We now continue with the show, and right now to our second segment, that is In the Headlines, where we get to sample for you the different stories that have been highlighted on our dailies. And perhaps you can begin with how the front page of the PD looks like, and this is in respect to COVID-19. A lot is already being said in regards to the new variant, that is the Omicron variant, and also WHO released a report in regards to that, where they just say that this particular new variant is spreading at an unprecedented rate. This also comes after Kenya already reported 3 cases as of yesterday, as it was mentioned by the CS Health yesterday. And this is again why Kenyans are being urged to continue taking caution, continue adhering to the COVID-19 protocols, as well as ensure they get vaccinated. That story of actually COVID-19 has been fleshed out this morning from page 4 through 6, just highlighting this particular new variant and just saying the different countries in which it has been detected. And also the reports coming out is that it could have actually spread further, only that in some areas it hasn't yet been detected. And the same also continues still on Matters Health, where the Health CEC warns of COVID 5th wave that is in Machakos County there. So away from Matters Health and perhaps COVID-19 to a bit of some elections and what KNCHR is set to do in respect to just setting aside 160 million for poll monitoring, saying that this is the best way they can be able to monitor next year's general election to ensure that they're actually free and fair from their side. And this is perhaps why they're setting aside all this money to just ensure that they get to monitor this elections. When we get to the details, I'll be telling you how this money has been just broken down in different capacities to ensure that actually all the elections come next year will be well monitored. And in Kilifi County, there's panic as lion is on the loose, and on the loose as it has critically injured. To remember that we've been actually having this kind of stories over time in different places in the country where we have most of these wild animals either encroaching into into people's areas, or even into most of these farms. And right now there's actually what Kenyans are saying in most of these parts, and particularly in this particular county where this lion is said to have injured 2, is that Kenyans are now asking, especially the KWS, to come up with measures that are going to ensure that at least most of these wild animals get to stay in their designated areas. But in regards to this 2 who have been injured in that particular county, at least now they are getting treatment in regards to that. We also have some bits of business there, and this is again in respect to the Christmas season. And right now it looks like Kenyans will just have to pay more for most of these goods that they get to buy, with the main header gloomy festivities as prices of essential commodities shot up. Again, when we get to the details, I'll be telling you actually why this oftentimes happen and why this specific time the prices of most of these commodities, especially essential commodities, foodstuffs, things like sugar, milk, have actually shot up in this time, and are up until what time whereby these prices are expected to just be up the way they are right now. And again, also a latest report by TIFA shows that Sakaja is the most popular Nairobi governor aspirant, being followed closely by Esther Passaris, that is at 11%, Sakaja at 13%, just saying that if elections were to be held today, he's perhaps going to be the most preferred candidate for the gubernatorial seat. But where exactly does it put the others who are also trying to vie for that particular seat? Again, when we get to those details, I'll be telling you more about that. Victor.
So on the front page of the Star newspaper, there's a photo there of one lady, Wambui Nyotu, who is the person there according to the newspaper here. Still on the page, you can take a look at that story. It's fleshed up there for you in details. And on the Star as well, front page, it will not be possible to steal my vote, says DP Ruto. It will not be possible to steal my vote. And the story continues to say that the DP rubbishes claims that election results are determined by a deep state. The DP said assertions that his supporters will cast their votes, but the counting and declaration of the results done by the faceless deep state are far-fetched. He termed it as a narrative being spearheaded and spread by perennial losers. Ruto rubbished off the existence of the deep state, sometimes referred to as the system, saying that it's a fallacy being pushed to scare voters. So That is yesterday when he was speaking in Malava constituency in Kakamega County. And a huge blow to civil servants as court says no to active politics. This backs EACC that UON Don Ben Sihanya must choose between ODM and varsity job. Now, civil servant Justice Ndumanderi said that public officers with active roles to play in the management of political parties are bound to relinquish their positions in the civil service. The judge made this proclamation and this pronouncement on December 9th in a ruling on a petition by Professor Ben Sihanya, who has locked horns with the EACC over his appointment as the chair of the ODM disciplinary committee. Now, excuse me, according to the justice, the said conclusion is that this rests within the meaning of the section 23(2) of the Leadership and Integrity Act as read together with section 12(1)(c) of the Political Parties Act. He said that the prevailing circumstances under the petitioner is deemed to be a public affair since he fails in the realm of a person whose remuneration and benefits are paid out of money provided by Parliament. So, for the civil servants, it's now either you take your job or go straight to politics. And moving on quickly to some story here that job losses pushed urban dwellers into farming. That's according to World Bank research. The global lender notes that employment increased in rural areas, mainly in agriculture. So according to the report, the pandemic has had a huge impact on the labor market, and some of the scaring will have longer-term implications. Unemployment increased in urban areas while employment increased in rural areas, with agriculture being the top option. Let me get your point on this one, Regina. From the business side, this points at a very positive note in terms of the economy and the food production in the country, right?
Well, it depends on from where the angle you're looking at, because earlier this week we had a report indicating that we might be headed to a drought at least January, February, so to speak. Then also there's the issue of, do we have the reserves that we require, compounded by the fact that we're headed to a general election. We have had a good harvest, so to speak, and even you heard from that particular story by PS Agriculture Hamadi Boga saying that they're also working on just getting more farmers to sell to them as NCPB, to sell to them their produce.
Yes.
So give or take, if you look at it, you can say we've had good rains, but the issue is where the farmer is concerned, are they taking home what they require? The issue of food security is fluid, so
actually it's part of the government's agenda.
Yes, it is, but it's quite a fluid situation because on top of that, there's also the purchasing power of Mwananchi, so to speak. Because if you look at the survey that was given yesterday by the central bank, it indicated that a majority of households actually deferred, or rather took advantage of the moratorium on loans for that 1 year, at around 14%, so to speak, because of the purchase power had gone down because of the COVID-19 disruptions. And also in as far as we had good weather. Remember, we were also dealing with the fall armyworms from 2018.
Yes.
We were also dealing with the locust invasion, and it hit around 10 to 9 counties in that space. So we are still working on food security. We are not there yet. And there's been a conversation even within government to have that we move from over-reliance on maize and take up other cereals, the sorghum, the green grams and such. And the e-voucher has been launched in 37 counties, so to speak. So it will also bring the cost of inputs down so that the farmers now can have a little bit more. Government 60% immediately you get on the e-voucher, 60% is deducted off, and this and your verification indicates that the ministry immediately takes off the 40% of what is remaining after your for your purchase. So 100% subsidy, so to speak, on farm inputs that not only just include certified seeds but also fertilizer and lime. And in future they're talking about financing and soil testing. So it's a journey we're walking. We're not there yet.
Yeah, and I think it's also the increase of production companies around the country of, producing fertilizers and, all the farm inputs. I think it's okay. Somebody like Doreen must be happy. In western side of Kenya, ugali is the thing. Okay.
We're just appreciating government's efforts to actually help and assist Kenyans. See what we are Western peke yake.
Yeah, it's for food basket. We do a lot of corn. Okay. And finally, and still in business, Kenya ranked among top 4 export-import markets in Africa. 27% of the surveyed reported that they trade more with South Africa, Ghana, and Kenya. So inter-African trade is on the rise, with at least 50% of countries in the continent trading with each other. That's according to survey. And this, according to the Africa CEO survey by Pan-African Private Sector Trade and Investment Committee, shows half of the respondents surveyed import goods or services from other African countries. And I think most of the African countries have been championing for the inter-African trade between the countries. And if you ask me, this is the way to go. So Kenya, South Africa, and Ghana, way to go.
Now, talking about that, or rather that beating as far as matters of exports are concerned, Kenya and Uganda are embroiled in an egg war. Vita ya mayai. We will be giving you details when we come back. Do keep it right here. It has been a problem. Good morning once again if you're tuning in. This is KBC Channel 1. Good morning, Kenya. We're just sampling what has made headlines in the various dailies that we have in studio. So before we took a break, I informed you that Kenya and Uganda are embroiled in an egg war. Vita ya mayai. Na namaanisha vita ya mayai ya kuku.
It's good to be specific.
Egg.
No, I need to be specific.
Yes.
People have a way of changing things to mean something that you have not said. I mean, mayai ya kuku.
People have a way of thinking outside the box.
They are not this
Thinking
actually
of what
I
is
want
not even
people
there.
to think within the box.
Just the
Thinking
way it
about
is.
mayai. So you think you like your poached eggs, scrambled eggs, fried eggs, Spanish omelette as such. Well, the way things are going, that may be in short supply in the coming few months or weeks, so to speak, or if it's within the market, it's going to be like more expensive, and this is why. So the Uganda's private sector is now embroiled in a spat with Kenya, and this is the reason, and this is what they say: your chickens cannot lay as many eggs as ours, and this is your argument. If you look, Uganda will always produce more eggs than Kenya. If you just think of the feeds that our poultry industry takes up, Uganda definitely produced more feeds. And this is according to Simon Kahero, the chair of the East Africa Business Council, Uganda chapter. And because our climate, we will always produce more chicken and eggs than the rest of the region. Now, this current tiff started with Kenya, Sisi, banning importation of chicken and chicken products to protect farmers. It's farmers that threaten to ruin this vibrant commercial relationship. So it was in the interest of our poultry farmers that government did such a move. However, according to Tegemeo Institute research, Timothy Njage, this move was inflamed by the COVID-19 pandemic, with India sweeping nearly all the raw materials used to manufacture chicken meal from Kenya's source markets such as Uganda, Zambia, and Malawi. Consequently, this led to the increase in cost of the layers feed. And as a result, Kenyan chicken farmers abandoned local manufacturers of chicken feed and moved to Uganda and Tanzania. So you see, when you say COVID disruptions, they come in all forms, and they hit all areas, including supply ya mayai. So in a nutshell, Kenya-Uganda trade, this is not the first time that our neighbors and us are involved in this push and pull. We did that with maize, we did that with sugar, we did that with milk. Now tuko kwa vita ya mayai.
But this looks like that sibling rivalry. Unajua mimi utanifanyia, mimi sikukufanyia, so hatutafanyiana. So ni time yako, ni tani yako. Because also around the same time in 2019 still, because of that ban of importation of milk, it still continued that process of the TIF.
That's where we are. And I also wanted to, there's something that we have never resolved. And I grew up hearing it. I have read it out to the public. The issue of the fish within Migingo. Victor, the issue of the fish. I understand the waters are said to be Kenyan waters.
But the fish belongs to?
But the
Uganda.
It was a narrative which was pointed during Kibaki's regime. Remember, Kenya's actually pushed President Kibaki to resolve the issue. But it's the same way we had our own issues with Somalia. Even an inch of a boundary can bring a very big tiff between two nations. So it has to be handled properly. But then, you still realize that most Kenyans who reside in that small, it's being referred to as small rock in the lake, they still face a lot of harassment from police officers from the other side of Uganda. So it's an issue. How it's going to be resolved years from 2002 during President Kibaki's regime, and now President Uhuru Kenyatta is leaving office without that issue being resolved, it still leaves so many questions unanswered. How is Migingo Island going to be resolved? Is it part of no man's land? Is it part of Uganda, or is it part of Kenya? Ama samaki ni ya na maji ni ya, So it's a tough decision. Personally, I can't really.
But some of the experts in regard to vita ya mayai here, so to speak, and I'm saying it on a very lighter note, but it is something of consequence, because if you look at Kenya-Uganda trade, the value of what Kenya sold to Uganda in 2020 is at 72.2 billion. What we sold to Uganda, and what we bought from Uganda in 2020 amounts to 25.9 billion shillings. So this is a love-hate relationship that has to be resolved, lest we are going to see the entry of, smuggled goods through our borders. And this is going to create more harm than good, especially for these farmers that the government has been quick to try and protect going forward. So this is a regional block. We will be keeping tabs on what happens, especially when you look at, the EAC, the regional block, working at having even a common market, so to speak, and also having a common currency. These are some of the things that have been working within the East African regional block. So we'll be keeping tabs on this particular.
But you see, again, Regina, one of the reasons, again, Uganda, we do a lot of trade with Uganda. Uganda is a landlocked country. So unlike Kenya and Tanzania, where we have got our ports around, Uganda depends mostly on agriculture. So if they have enough supply that can sustain them, the rest wanapeleka wapi?
But when you look at that tussle, it looks like really it's just been an ongoing kind of war, perhaps beginning from that issue of Migingo Island. All these other things of sugar, milk, may just be looking like sideshows, but there's actually, it's deep-rooted. But nonetheless, the CS Trade is saying that they're looking for ways to actually resolve it, given the fact that Uganda is a really good trade partner of Kenya. But trying to resolve it on these particular sideshows, as I would call it, as opposed to looking at the deep-rooted issues, I don't know if that's going to even solve the problem.
Yeah, I believe we should, get to the roots of it so that we don't have cases like this occurring again in future. Maybe another product, we can never tell.
Okay, Steph.
Okay, let's take a look at the Daily Nation. On the front page, we have KRA to access cash in secret bank accounts. So this story is on page 9. And we are told that the Kenya Revenue Authority is set to get unfettered access to information on secret bank accounts held by Kenyans in 106 foreign countries, tightening the noose on tax evaders and beneficiaries of illicit wealth, the National Treasury has, in a legal notice, disclosed that in the final stages of signing exchange of information agreements with multiple tax authorities across the globe, including the popular tax havens such as Switzerland, Panama, the British Virgin Island, Mauritius, Jersey, and Monaco. And these regulations shall come into operation on January 1st, 2022. You can get more on that story, but we'll get into it just in a few. Also making the front page is the story on Ruto and Raila, who are fighting for voters in diaspora, which is said to be the 291 county constituency, that is only eligible to vote during the presidential elections. And now every vote counts. And from 2013 elections, we saw how President Uhuru secured his presidential seat only by 50% threshold and avoided a runoff by the thinnest of margins, about 8,000 votes, to secure victory against Mr. Raila Odinga, his closest challenger. So every vote counts, and the diaspora people are being hunted by the aspirants, presidential aspirants. Another story making the front page is the Omicron virus, news on the Omicron virus, which is at peak and expected to even rise during the Christmas period. So we advise to take caution and go for the vaccines, to just wash our hands, sanitize, make sure that you're not in crowded places, all these regulations that we know already. To other news is that how to make merry without gaining weight during Christmas. I don't know how possible this is, being that Christmas is that time of the year where you want to eat everything and anything that is good. And they've given some of the things, that you can avoid, such as eating processed carbohydrates and calorie-dense food, eating foods that naturally contain a lot of fat, and using a lot of oil or fat in cooking your food. So those are some of the areas that you should avoid if you don't want to increase weight, just to maintain your good health.
We don't really care, Maza. Itakuwa time ya
kusherekea watu wana party.
Kesi badai. It is difficult, but we shall see. So if you want to maintain weight and to be healthy, you can check that out on page 12. On other news is the news on the flu outbreak. Making memes is that kama hauna homa, this time uko Illuminati. And people, it has gone round, it's very common, and a lot of people have had flus. Most people that you meet with wako na homa, experiencing the same symptoms, of fever, some sort of fever, some flu. And it's actually an outbreak. We get this on page 11 from a research done by KEMRI. Surveillance results from the Kenya Medical Research Institute and the Center for Global Health Research in Kisumu shows that there is an outbreak of influenza A. The survey was done between September and November, and it revealed the outbreak of the flu in school children and in the general population. Out of 36 samples collected, 4 were positive of influenza A, while the others showed mild signs of the virus. Well, just some details about this flu is that it is an infectious respiratory disease caused by viruses that affect the nose, throat, and sometimes the lungs. Viral infections can be deadly, especially in high-risk groups. So in case you're experiencing, this type of flu, you should go to the hospital and get, medical attention. Research is showing that the cold weather generally worsens upper respiratory tract infections, and experts have warned that Kenyans should prepare themselves for one of the worst seasons of such infections. And this is because of, again,
during this time in December, the cold weather is very persistent and will probably still be there for a very long time. So the flu might just get worse. So you need to be careful. And it's transmitted through fluid drops from infected people. That's the information from WHO, and spreads rapidly around the world during epidemics or pandemics and imposes a huge economic burden. So
I think now many people have been answered with that report, that research.
So it is an outbreak there. And just another one to finish up. There's reprieve for Kinoti as court suspends his arrest warrants. We get this on page 4. And the 3-judge bench barred Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutambai from enforcing the warrant of arrest issued against Mr. Kinoti by the High Court after he failed to surrender to police authorities to serve a 4-month sentence. And the order is temporary and will remain in force up until April 1st in 2022, when the Court of Appeal will issue its decision on Mr. Kinoti's request. So that's what's making the front page on the Daily Nation.
Before we let you go, Steph, 1st of April 2022 is when we're going to be having the courts make a decision over, Kinoti, right?
Yeah.
April 1st happens to be April
Fool's Day. Fool's Day.
I'm just... who's fooling who?
Who will be fooling who?
Was it a coincidence? Or something was serious about it?
Who is lying to who?
Whatever you do with that information,
that is entirely up to you.
Yes. So that's some of the stories making the Daily Nation.
Okay, so let's just look quickly on the news that is there, especially for Kenyans, given it's the festive season, time to make merry. Steph mentioned there on the Daily Nation that looking at that particular article whereby, is it easy to eat and not grow big as it may? Well, it's the festive season, time to eat a lot of food, but there's a bit of sad news for Kenyans because it just looks like the prices of essential commodities are set to shoot up, and this is that latest report, and they're giving reasons as to why this is actually going to happen. Prices of basic commodities, essential commodities such as sugar, milk have been soaring high, up, and that is also expected to continue at least up until early January. And this is just going by the continued rains, as this article is highlighting, whereby chairman in charge of tomato section at Kongowea Market, that is Julius Mutegi, said that this situation has actually worsened by continued rains in upcountry and increased cost of transportation due to high fuel prices. And he says that as you approach the festivities, prices of commodities always rise because areas where the food products are produced are experiencing harvesting delays due to heavy rains, thus making transportation slow, triggering low supplies. So kama unapanga kukula ukwe mbigi kidogo, it may be a bit difficult for you because prices of these things are expected to, actually they are high as we speak, and that is expected to even continue up until end of this year, at least up until early January. Then again, quickly just on what Kenya National Commission of Human Rights is set to do. This is as we head up towards next year's general elections, whereby they've set out money aside just to monitor the elections, to monitor the polls there. And they're saying that the major reason for this is just to ensure that actually there's transparency, free and fair elections. Just to break it down for you a bit, is that they've actually set aside 160 million for this purpose, and out of this 160 million, 20 million will go towards monitoring campaigns, with a similar amount going towards monitoring the elections. And also the same body intends to spend 15 million to monitor political party primaries, 6 million to monitor accountability and redress process of the primaries, while 8 million will be used for civic education and public awareness campaigns on party nomination. Just showing you that the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is going all out to try and ensure that not only will those elections be free and fair, but also Kenyans Kenyans will be understanding why exactly they are voting and why they are voting for the persons they are going to be voting for. But the article continues to highlight and it continues to break down how that 160 million would be set, I mean the different areas in which it will go to again just continue to ensure the same is well catered for come August elections there, that is 2022 polls. Vic.
Yep. Okay.
Are you trying to regroup? Let me drive you to sports before you take us to where you're going, Victor. Sergio Aguero has retired.
Actually, that's what I'm looking at here. It's because of a heart condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, he retires at the age of 33. So Manchester City fans know Aguero and you know what he did for the team before he joined Barcelona. And if you looked at that particular feed, you could actually see he was balancing its tears, and at some point he actually shed a few tears there, just saying that, you know, he really wanted to remain and assist his teammates, but God had but there are other reasons actually for some things to happen there. From the back page of the Standard this morning, you can get a whole, full page, so to speak, just highlighting the Argentinians, career, so to speak. The Barcelona striker, that is Sergio Aguero, who was crying at that particular press conference at Camp Nou Stadium in Barcelona, where he announced that he was retiring from football owing to health reasons, his heart apparently. And he has had quite an industrious track record in the field in matters soccer. He's among the world-known players, having only joined Barcelona in the off-season after ending a 10-year stint at Manchester United. Actually, Manchester City, sorry. Well, that's a Manchester United fan there. Okay, Manchester City. And he became quite great. There's something that has been highlighted that in his career. He is the fourth highest scoring player in the Premier League history with 184 goals in 275 games, behind only Alan Shearer and Wayne Rooney, as well as Andrew Cole. He's also the league's highest scoring overseas player, having registered 9 more goals than Thierry Henry, Arsenal, and 18, that is the number of hat-tricks he scored, including 12 that happened during the Premier League, and that's a record in England's top flight. He has scored 20 plus goals in all his competitions, 12 out of 13 campaigns between 2007 and 2008, as well as 2019 and 2020.
And it's also said that he's ending his career with 427 goals in 786 games.
Wow.
427 goals. And he played 786 games. So I think there's time for everything, right?
Yeah, he's left.
Yeah.
There's time for everything.
He's left a good legacy.
Exactly.
Now, yesterday in the corridors of justice, and this elicited a lot of comment on social media. The case against Babu Owino was dropped. And now this particular article, the front page of the Standard, has given inside details, or rather details, into a deal that Babu Owino struck with DJ Evolve. Allow me to just skim through it.
Please do.
Commitment by MP Babu Owino to clear a 17 million shillings hospital bill. Pay nursing home costs until DJ Evolve recovers. Buy a Noah and custom make it for the DJ. Set up a DJ academy. Pay in advance a two-year rent, water, electricity, internet and drugs. Buy a house for Orinda and register it in his name and that of his parents, and build the DJ another house in Utawala. If any party fails to comply with any of the terms in this agreement, either party shall be at liberty to rescind the agreement or sue for breach. Habari ndio hiyo, just in case you're wondering how that came about.
Wow.
Well.
And why the alternative means conflict resolution. Alternative means you settle. So that is part of the settlement, so to speak. You can call it a settlement. I'm not legal. I'm not legally, so it might not be part of the legal language, but that is what is contained. The further details are available on page 8 of the Standard this morning.
That is
there's just a lot that was said in regards to that, settlement. Some saying that poverty is a hindrance to justice, and this is why he's actually agreeing to all that. Some saying that when you look at the bigger picture, which one is way better, all these settlements or just choosing to go on with the justice process? At the end of the day, it just depends on the individual.
But look at it this way. I am of the school of thought that this is actually... No, I'm not saying someone's health has a price, so to speak. But let's be very realistic. You'd have pursued legal. You've already gone legal. It has given you what it has given. Your life will never be the same. But can it also change for the better, so to speak? So the deal is not an admission of guilt, however. That is what they say in that particular deal. And talking about reprieve, also, you remember controversial story, Dutch businessman Tom Cohen. Now the widow has won the first battle to regain control of his multi-million shillings wealth after a high court suspended a grant issued to his brother to manage the estate. So Wairimo strikes one on that. We'll be keeping tabs on that, including other stories that are making headlines in the corridors of justice.
All right,
we bring
Regina,
in the headlines to a close.
Before you go, Regina, you talked about something, the 75 years, the president of the anniversary of the National Park.
Oh, yes.
Let me ask you, to all of us, did you know that in the early 1950s, more than 30,000 wild beasts used to cross from Athi Kabiti to the Nairobi National Park?
Wow.
Wild beasts. Actually, that was the second largest after the Masai Mara Serengeti. Right now, the report says that not even 100 of them cross.
Wow.
But how can they cross? Are you looking at the expansive, there's lots of development. That corridor has already been closed off, so to speak. And this is one of the issues that environmentalists are dealing with. Ecosystems are changing, and humans have not learned to better coexist with the wildlife. So.
Yeah, and perhaps also that's why when you look at the encroachment of most of this wildlife to human habitat, it's just the same concept.
Yeah, we need to do something about it before it's too late.
It's already late.
It is, but
we can do something about it.
To be done.
Unless it's ndio tuhame tuachie wild animals their part to come back.
Nani alipata mwingine wa kwanza?
Nani?
We will not answer that. Remember, we are bringing this to a close and getting into an exciting aspect of Thursday being the new Friday, and tutaanza na chakula. There we mentioned the fight vita ya mayai, tumemaliza. Now we want to talk about chapati.
Oh.
Hey.
Chapo.
Steph amefurahi. Is that your favorite?
Favorite.
Chapati. Najua kuna watu wanapenda chapati madondo.
Victor Olo.
Chapati with anything. But that conversation is going to be coming up in not too long, and this is all going to be for a worthy cause. So do not go away. We'll be right back.